Nexium, before he got into his weird sex cult, they played volleyball making. My biggest argument is I own a goddamn house, and I should be free to fucking monetize it.
Meritocracy trap.
The meritocracy trap. Yeah.
Ready? Yeah.
My breath is terrible.
This one has a lot of hair. This one has a normal amount of hair. It's Pat and Alex. This one was born in Raytown. This one lives in Raytown. They opened a store in the pandemic, and this is a show about it. Hustle and bustle. Hustle and bustle. Hustle and bustle. Here is the show.
Hello and welcome back to Hustle and Bustle. I'm Pat.
I'm Alex.
It is another lovely week here in lovely Raytown at the House of Hustle.
That's right.
How's it going? It's unseasonably warm yesterday and today, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, yesterday was a big surprise.
Yeah, I'm hoping today is, I'm going to try and will it into existence. I walked outside without a coat this morning.
I'm in short sleeves.
Yeah, so fuck you, weather. Conform.
To our desires.
How much does the weather and seasonal, do you get seasonal depression? I feel like no one talked about seasonal depression, and now everyone has it. It's like gluten, like celiac disease. Like, before I was 30, no one was allergic to gluten, and then everybody's fucking allergic to gluten.
I think people even knew what gluten was.
Nobody knew it. I'd never heard. Glute meant of the buttocks.
So my first exposure...
So if you told me you were allergic to gluten, I'd be like, me too. That's like someone's butt. That's gross.
To gluten was in church. Went to a Catholic grade school, and there was a kid who had to have special hosts, because I guess Jesus has gluten in him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so he had to have...
what do you call it? Hosts? That's what it's called?
The host of the body. I think I'm saying that.
Now you sound like a parasite if you call it the host.
Yeah,
that's
gross. Kind of what we are.
The body of Christ.
But yeah,
he needed a special body of Christ. He needed gluten-free Christ.
But we didn't know what gluten was. So that kid had a rough year when he moved there because...
Look, I don't want to be the flag-carrying atheist, but if Jesus was really a miracle, he would turn himself into gluten-free when needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't have to bake a separate batch. Water to wine, but not gluten to ungluten. Can't do that.
Which, it was still gross. Might as well have been gluten-free.
Well, in my experience, all communion is disgusting. Except for if you go to like one of the bougie services and they give you real bread. Like if it's Easter or something. Like,
depends how hungry you are, too. Sometimes that little snack means something to me.
And I always like the communion wine, gross. No one liked it. But because it was forbidden, I wanted it. Mm-hmm. Like the inner circle, that's how it was at our church. The inner circle was actual wine. The outer circle was grapefruit juice when they passed around the little tray.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you just get wine? Were they just getting Catholic kids drunk left and right?
I mean,
did you even have a non-alcoholic option?
It tasted like wine. It definitely didn't taste like juice. Yeah, dude, I'll be frank. Even back then, I was skeptical of the whole wine portion. The idea that there's just someone up there with a napkin just wiping away your cooties and then turning the cup. Dude,
when's the last time you were...
There's hundreds of people drinking the same cup.
Like, what is on that rag he's wiping with? Post-COVID, you can't do that. Can't do that. When's the last time you went to church or a church function?
I probably go... My folks... I mean, my parents and my sister are still very Catholic, and so whenever we get together as a family, sometimes we'll hit a Sunday mass, or if it's like my mom's birthday or someone's birthday or something.
Yeah, I feel like I need to go to church with my mom. It would make her happy.
Yeah, it makes them real happy, dude. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's like, well, see, all right. So last night, me and Dylan and Ray and Jen went to the VFW hall up here, which my Uncle Donnie's, Vietnam vet, right? Like, it's the biggest pieces of his identity as you walk around. And you go to this Veterans of Foreign Wars hall, and, like, first off, it's weird. Like, there are VFW halls all over the place. There's not, this isn't unique. This place, I feel like, is a little bit unique, and where it's hidden. Like, you couldn't find it without Sherpa to lead you there. It's like between two houses, and then there's like an auto body shop, and you follow this. It's weird. But it's back in that neighborhood, Dylan's neighborhood.
Oh.
You could walk there from Dylan's house. Anyways, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm fascinated now thinking about it because I go back into that cut, and like back there's, I think of the Kansas City Swiss Society because they own the Chalet, which is like this At the turn of the century, when a lot of foreigners were coming over on boats, they would start these societies, yeah, based on your home country, like the Turners. The Turners, or what became YMCA, was German like gymnastics clubs, because that's when the Germans came over. That's where they would get their community back home, was at the turning clubs. Turning means like on the poles, like going around them. That's what turning means. And then they were called Turners, and then Turners turned into YMCAs.
You mean with the ribbons?
No, like when you're on the poles and you're like flipping around one, and then you jump to another one.
Okay.
The parallel bars.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they would call them Turners because they would actually turn on those things. Yeah, I don't know why. Whatever. Long and short of it is, basically, ethnic groups would come over and they would band together. You'd have the Hungarians would band together, the Germans would band together, and the Swiss would band together. And so my family came over and they were really Swiss. And a lot of it was early on was community, but also like insurance. Like you couldn't just get insurance if you were a German person when you landed here.
Yeah.
You had to like get it, pool the resources of all the other Germans in the area so you guys could have your own German insurance. So anyways, the Swiss Society, my family's been around forever. Obviously, no one identifies like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's the Irish Fest, there's things like that.
There's like a handful of home countries you're allowed to be proud of.
The Swiss Society is dying. Like it, and I would imagine any society like it would. And that it's incredibly old. Is what I'm saying. And when you go to the stuff now, it still looks generally like it did, except for there's less kids running around, way less kids, less people in their 30s running around. I'm now towards the bottom end, and I'm almost 40 of the age. When I was 20 years ago, that was unfathomable. There were so many young people going on. But basically, just the generations don't care about it as much anymore. Fast forward to VFW, same neighborhood, and I'm sitting there, and like everyone's 100 years old that's in the VFW. And I don't know this, but like I think VFW, there's certain wars that are like, it's not like I served in Iraq. That was like, I don't even know if that counts as the VFW as a veteran of foreign wars, because I think it was an operation. You know what I mean?
Weird.
So like, I'm definitely speaking out of my ass for the military people, but like, suffice it to say, the VFW halls are dying, and none of this is new. This is bowling alone type shit that societies are dying. And like these communities are dying, but they're still there. And it was just wild last night to be like, you would walk into a VFW hall and there were fucking 20 people there and everybody knew each other, right? And it was like my Uncle Donnie's church, and he took people to church. So he felt like a little bit of a celebrity because he had people to bring with him to church. You know what I mean? But I just am fascinated by these super old communities, and some of them have resources, like real resources, whether it's tens of thousands of dollars or land or property. And buildings, right? Like I was just joking with Dylan. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that if you're the last person alive in the VFW, you just get the building because like you're just the last one with keys.
Yeah.
But I'm just fascinated by these things, and church seems to be one of them, where it's not getting younger in most places. Obviously, there are extreme exceptions to that rule, and church is going to be one of the institutions that will age last and die last.
Yeah.
But I just think they're weird.
It is interesting. Like there's got to be a way to form a group around something that isn't like religion, a war, or
right.
You know,
or like the country you came from, because you're the only people that talk to each other.
Somehow someone's got to normalize. I mean, I guess there's like that's what kind of bars are, or there's got to be clubs and stuff. I don't know.
Well, that's. I mean, we'll get it. I want to get into it because there's something I want to talk about later. But like just community for community's sake is something that we've talked about here, and that wasn't where I was trying to get to at all. We were bullshitting, but like that is something that I don't know. Other than a country club or a fraternity in an academic setting, but other than a country club in an adult setting, like where do you see people just go and exchange quite transparently money for community? And in a country club, obviously that's like a very small fraction of society.
Yeah.
What my point is, and we had this argument not that long ago, or kind of discussion not that long ago, I just think that we're like, I'll give you money, you give me friendship, is too vulnerable a fucking transaction. Still, as much as everyone's losing their minds because they don't have any fucking friendship, as much as there's an epidemic of loneliness, it's too vulnerable a transaction. People would be like, oh fuck, you're selling friends? I need them. Here's $20. People just won't do it. They need a veil of something else. I'm going out. I'm getting dinner. I'm having drinks. I like wine, and these are the people who like wine. You're just giving money for a group of friends.
Yeah.
But it's still hard for people to admit that. But that seems like the fucking obvious choice. We all need friends. There are businesses that could be created around it. Well, and frankly, there does need to be some Like, someone has to pay bills at the VFW in order for that third place to exist. So there has to be a business model for it to work.
Yeah, definitely. I think one, people are just less likely to part with money in general, and then they're.
I don't know. OnlyFans? Are you kidding me?
Well, and then they've been
OnlyFans
tricked.
is the opposite of that,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
Consumption's not going down, which is the only thing keeping us from a recession, right? Like, people have been talking about recessions for 3 years, and the only reason we're not is because we keep fucking spending like nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, just a disallocation of resource. I don't know. Yeah, it is. I wonder why that's a harder choice to make.
Yeah, if we there's a run on toilet paper or water, we fucking freak out and hoard it. But there's a run on loneliness. It's everywhere. It's in everyone's life. And no one is willing to exchange money for the solution.
Just gotta make it cool again. We already do it. Like, you pay taxes and you gave a lot of money to the government. Like, Raytown's small enough. You just gotta make being a good citizen cool again.
Well, we have to make Raytown Main Street cool again. We've talked about that from that weird angle. Anyways, all right, announcements. That's the longest intro ever to get to announcements. Talk Raytown. We are officially going to rent this podcast studio. For 2 years, we've been talking about, this is a studio we rent. We made up rates. We put them on the internet. We never really went that far or tried that hard to rent it, but we are going to rent it. Because Vicky Turnbow at the Raytown Chamber of Commerce is starting a podcast called Talk Raytown, and the Chamber is going to have a podcast. I think it's great. You've been having an itch to talk a little Raytown.
Yeah.
And Vicky's beating you to the punch.
Yeah, I know. Which is good. She's got, probably a better platform to do it from.
Yeah.
But eventually, it's part of, make Raytown cool again, we talked about it. Part of Raytown's issue, I think, is, how do you get the attention of Gen Z? How do you make young people want to hang out here, want to spend money here, want to move here, want to raise a family here, want to bet their life and resources on Raytown? And a podcast is a good way to reach them. And something I'm still convincing myself, because I think it's important. I don't know how to properly do it yet, but to make government fun and cool again. I don't know anything about local government except for it's really important and manages a lot of our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We should care more about it. And I don't know how to care more about it. So, I think Vicky's giving people an opportunity to...
Let me offer something, because, and I'll back up a little bit. This podcast is really fucking dry and boring as shit anyway. So you might as well just, if I find it interesting, there's a half a chance maybe you will, or I don't know why the fuck you're listening. But Raytown Main Street is this local organization, which I think is on the fucking spectrum of VFW or the church or anything else. It's business leaders and people from the community who are former business leaders or retired people or whatever that are engaged and want to see downtown Raytown thrive in some fashion. It's a little too fucking vague, if I'm being honest. There isn't a direct fucking mission.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you ask 12 people in the organization, you might get 12 different missions. Some people, what we inevitably do is we run events, right? And if I talk a little bit angrily or toxically about it, it's because I actually give a shit about it and I want it to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
So one of the frustrations we've recently had, we're the youngest people by a mile, most of the people in that room don't even know couldn't post to Facebook or, let alone make a reel or value a reel.
Whatever statistics of people who use TikTok, they're on the end of the...
They watch, I would say, Fox News.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most of our people are getting their information from cable news. So that's the people in that room.
There you go. It's a cable room.
It's a cable room. And probably still some newspapers landing on some doorsteps would be my guess. And so they run these events, and these events are really cool. They're engaging events, and they bring people into Raytown. One is the holiday lighting, which is awesome, and it'll have happened after you hear this. But it brings all these kids to Raytown and families to engage and do something fun and create a memory that is in the real world and is awesome. I think it's a super duper event. They do the same thing in Easter with Egg Extravaganza.
Yeah.
So they do these cool events that are a good community engagement. And they do bring some people to Raytown a few times a year. But I think, mostly we've been engaged. That's kind of all we do is these events, and we maintain them. Long and the short of it, they have an event coming up. They want it out, and the website has never been updated. This group of cable watchers, no one could figure out how to do the website. So when we came on, they already had this website problem, and they're hounding us to get the website. And I just get a little annoyed at the over importance of the website. This event will be ruined if we don't get the website updated because no one who has children that would bring them to the holiday lighting is checking our website. They don't know Raytown Main Street has a website. The only way they would get to our website is through social media. Guess what? Raytown Main Street doesn't even have an Instagram.
Yeah. Which we'll fix. We're going to go ahead and fix that. But I've had this discussion to tie it all, finally get back to it, with April, who's the president, who's amazing. I love April to death, and she's open to all of our ideas. It's just bandwidth and doing shit, right? Main Street, if you want to inspire people to do things, we have to make it fun to be a part of. Yeah.
Which means Main Street has a building in downtown Raytown, and there's a bunch of discussion about what to do with it. The first thing it needs to be is a hub for people to enjoy themselves as part of Raytown Main Street.
Yeah.
It needs to have a party that was fun, from which some content or word of mouth came from that made other people want to come to the next party. Because if it's not fun, like, I don't know. I've done this in rugby. People don't come to, there are very few people that come to rugby and get their value out of rugby just for the rugby. You're coming for the community. And if there isn't fun in community, like if I can't have a drink with someone after I volunteer for 5 hours and I don't want to, then I'm not going to fucking volunteer for 5 hours.
Yeah, it's the gel capsule that is the community
pill. It's 100%. So if you want more people to give a shit about Raytown and we want Raytown Main Street to be awesome, throw some fucking parties that are awesome, and then that's how we're going to get people engaged.
Yeah.
I know it sounds stupid, but that's it. Like, at the fraternity level in college, like, the fraternities do a lot of bad. They also do a lot of good. Yeah. And they wouldn't be able to do the fun shit that they do without doing the good that they do. And, you know, anyways. It's a very long-winded way of getting people together and having fun is how you make shit happen.
Yeah. And they have those skills. Like, if you ask now, like, probably inexperienced, but the average young person probably doesn't know how to put on an event that families, young people can all, like, successfully gather around and execute and, like, leave with happy children, safe children, and do it all again the next year. But they have no idea how to, like, get the people there or make it big or
100%.
They have lots of those skills of community building and experience because that was their whole life.
Yeah.
That this coming up generation has very little and lacking of. So just like melding the two cultures, which has got to be like what every society does every decade, but combining those two areas of expertise to make a cool shit.
It's every cult documentary starts with fun. Like Nexium, before he got into his weird sex cult, they played volleyball. That's how he got friends to come around him and enjoy him, was they played volleyball together. Like at the beginning of every cult is people having fun in a group and buying in through that gateway. Yeah. You know? So when you talk about wanting to make local politics cool again, I'm sure it's happened. Like I just hear stories, I don't know shit, but what I see in the local media, it sounds like Stacey Abrams like did some immense work over a long number of years in the grassroots in Atlanta and in Georgia to get young people engaged and voting and like going door to door and just to raise, basically getting young people back involved in local or whatever politics. I've got to imagine that like when they had a meeting, there was some fucking fun at the core of it, or they wouldn't have been able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just getting like in. Yeah, we can move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right, 30% gift certificates. We're doing that through the month of December. Come in here, buy a gift certificate, and give it to your friends and family for Christmas. So go do that.
Literally making money.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Around the water cooler. So just some shit to talk about. Red Lobster, their endless shrimp deal led to huge losses, you say?
Yeah, so I guess they have like this, McRib style of event where every once in a while they'll have timely sales. And so one of them is this $20 all-you-can-eat endless shrimp. And someone high up was like, this is such a hit, and it brings so many people to the restaurant.
Just do it all the time.
It should just be on the menu. And he brought some math to the table. It was like, it'll bring this many more people to the restaurant, and they'll, order this many more things, and it'll be good. Well, the third quarter of 2023, data just came in, and they lost $11 million on shrimp.
Oh, my.
Which is just like...
you're eating, the thing is, not only are you eating endless shrimp, but you get cheddar biscuits the entire time refilled at the table as you're eating.
Oh, dude, I wonder what the caloric equivalent of that much fried shrimp and biscuits. But anyway, it's like each location in the third quarter alone, so in those 3 months, had to have, on average, had like 800 orders of endless shrimp. divided. That's like
That seems. I bet you could do that on Nolan Road. I guarantee the Nolan. What time frame is this in 1 quarter? 3 months.
3 months.
3 months. That Nolan Road Red Lobster definitely had 800 endless shrimp tickets.
That's crazy.
That just brings the question: there's a Long John Silver's and A&W root beer on 40 Highway between 7, like right by Walmart and Sterling.
Yep.
And they advertise a Sunday endless shrimp, like all you can eat shrimp. How are they still in business?
I have a feeling that the Venn diagram is a circle of VFW and like those people and Long John
it's
Silver's.
the same otaku keeping the doors open.
Yeah.
Okay.
My grandpas love that shit. Long John Silver's.
Are you
and
serious?
A&W,
Both
that
of them?
Yeah.
Both of your grandpas.
Well, not anymore. Because
Okay.
like they know like a little bit about health.
Yeah, sure, yeah. At some point, those hush
But
puppies
as a
catch
kid,
up
I
with
went
it.
there a lot. Yeah.
Either grandparent were going to Long John Silver's. I sat on the Raytown World Cup committee meeting. We went and had a meeting, and I just thought there was some interesting shit that was coming out of it. The most interesting thing I would say is that this is from like governmental people. So you're in there with the mayor and the assistant city manager for this and the blah, blah, blah for that. And apparently for the Soccer World Cup, people will come from all over the world to the city where the World Cup's happening without a hotel room or an Airbnb or the means to get one. And they will just camp or sleep everywhere and walk everywhere.
Which like I want to believe that.
Right.
To, like the nth degree. I want it to be absolute chaos for a month, dude.
Yeah.
If we just turn into like an international camp out.
We will be Fire Festival. Our parking lot will be Fire Festival. We will be selling luxurious tents in our parking lot for an exorbitant amount, bottles of water for an exorbitant amount. We will be taking advantage of this crisis because if you fly here with nothing, you deserve to be gouged.
Yeah.
I mean, what in it? That's like how Dwayne Kaler used to travel.
know-
Like, I'm just going to arrive in a city and figure it out.
And I believe it because I know a handful of people that live that do those things. That
Oh
will
my
just hop
God.
on planes and be like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's the World Cup. Got to go.
So that'll be cool.
I guess, yeah, it'll be dope. One thing that we argued about, I figured we could do it on the air a little bit, is, and this is, how's Raytown going to take advantage of this, and how's Raytown going to, like, not get fucked over, right? Raytown doesn't have a lot of law enforcement now. Obviously, if there's dozens and hundreds of people just sleeping in the streets, you'd think that there might be more laws that need enforcing.
Yeah.
So there's that. So it's like, you know, how do we capitalize on and get as many people here, but also, like, not burned to the ground?
Yeah.
But the number one problem is Raytown doesn't have any hotels, and Airbnbs and VRBOs are illegal. This incenses me and infuriates me and seems like the number one governmental to do between now and the World Cup would be to change that because it's good for not just the residents, but also the businesses. If we want people spending tax dollars in Raytown, we want them sleeping here. And we have every right and ability to do that. We're like one of the only places in the entire metro where where homeowners can't just VRBO or Airbnb their home. I know the Kansas City Metro or Kansas City just imposed like a restriction on how many homes you can own an Airbnb. But basically, Raytown's one of the few places where if you're a homeowner, you cannot monetize it on your own. And the World Cup's coming, and it seems like a really big thing, a dumb thing to do to extend that idiocy. I argue it's a giant idiocy anyways.
Yeah. I'm split internally on it.
You live in Raytown. You're the actual resident here.
I live in Raytown. So there's a lot of talking out of my butt here, but I've read a couple stories talking data points and discussing studies where analyzing cities that never allowed Airbnbs and then analyzing cities that had Airbnbs and then decided to make them illegal. And the outcome of both of those, I'm not going to say good, but was lower property or lower rents compared to the surrounding areas and a slower rise of rents compared to the surrounding areas. And those are two things I find really attractive about Raytown.
Right.
Now, I'm also not like ignorant enough to say that like if you say Airbnbs can be in Raytown, that like the rent is going to double or anything like that. I don't know. It comes from a fear. It's a fear that outside money and corporations will make money in Raytown and citizens won't.
That's going to happen, right? Like whatever the opportunity is, weed is now legal to sell in Missouri. Who's taking advantage of that? Is it average day Missouri residents and citizens that are being able to take advantage of that, or is it generally out of state giant corporate dollars that are able to extract most of the weed money in the state?
Yeah.
So that's with any industry, that's the case. I would argue that, like.
I think if they have the way to make it illegal, then they have a way to make it legal with stipulations.
That 100%.
Like it can't be black and white.
That's the thing, is they get to decide what the fucking laws are. And if they want, they could say, if you own a house in Raytown, you can only monetize one by Airbnb it.
Yeah.
Therefore, cutting out the land barons and the fucking people that are going to own 1 million houses or whatever, the corporations that would come in and do that. Because that does seem to be the pushback. Is in Kansas City, I guess corporations would come in and they'd buy 40 houses, 30 houses, 50 houses, and now they're gentrifying a neighborhood only superficially because no one's living in these houses full time and spending tax dollars full time. So there's no new incomes, and they're driving up the cost of the neighborhood around it without actually being a part of the neighborhood. So I get that, but raising costs is the part of gentrification or improvement or economic development, period. If we were to drop your favorite business at Fox's Drugs and you were to redo 5 of the most dilapidated houses in Raytown and make them nice ones, like like drop 4 other really nice things that we want in the city of Raytown, guess what? Everyone's rent's going up. You want to develop the green space, everyone's rent's going up. Yeah. So if you want Raytown to be better, then rent and the price of it cannot be a binary lever by which you make your decisions.
Rent should be going up to, the hope is, a landowner in Raytown or in the KC metro area.
Right.
The money circulating in the local economy, not ballooning into a handful of property developers.
Right.
So but I get it's a fear and maybe possibly irrational point of view to say no to Airbnb. So as long as I have the faith in our local government to put together some type of plan that will at least certify that they can mitigate the problems of large money coming in and taking it away from Raytown property owners, then I'll sign on.
Well, I find this interesting because I would say, not that you are, do you identify as libertarian? Or would you definitely, I would say.
I'm too ignorant about all of those titles to apply one to myself.
Well, this is a non-freedom argument you're making. My biggest argument is I own a goddamn house and I should be free to fucking monetize it. And not worried about the richer guy and what he might do if he also has that freedom. But me as an American, as a Raytown citizen, has less of a freedom to monetize my house at a time where people are talking about a silent depression right now. I think that's real. I think 100% that's 100%. Real. Inflation may be down, but the costs aren't down on the whole.
And GDP is the worst measure of probably 60% of the population, I, and everybody else.
When people are struggling more and more just to make their mortgage payment, then I think they should have the freedom to fucking rent rooms out and have short-term rentals. And so for me, it's a freedom argument that gets my cockles up and pisses me off the most, more than the economic development argument from but that's also hello, why have a Raytown World Cup committee if we're not going to remove one stupid fucking barrier?
Yeah. So that should be the committee's job, is to identify the problems and come up with creative and powerful solutions.
Raytown World Cup committee, we don't want it. That's until you remove that, it seems like.
So what is the temperature of it? What's the opinion? What are the
people
thoughts
want
on?
It. I mean, I would say that the 2 people that knew the most are the mayor and the chamber, and Vicky, the head of the chamber, and they're trying to cheerlead and get everyone else excited about it. I guess there's some public sentiment, and I don't know if this is online because I've been kicked out of all that, but that the World Cup won't affect us, or it's not going to benefit Raytown, which I don't know if. But so they seem to be.
Those are loser talks.
100%.
They're a bunch of nerds. And you're not welcome.
It's idiocy talks, by the way. Idiocy talks. There's just no way that it doesn't have a boon. Every Chiefs game, there's a boon here. But I also think that there's a giant missing mistake. I mean, there's a fucking billboard on Raytown Road and Blue Ridge Cutoff that, I don't know, 50,000 people have to see, 30,000 people have to see. I don't know what the number is. Every single Chiefs Sunday.
Yeah.
And it could say downtown Raytown this way with all these businesses, and it doesn't. It's probably some expired real estate license, fucking ad where the guy doesn't even sell real estate anymore. So there are missed opportunities, and that's no one's fault. We are now in the position for that to be our fault. So I'm not putting that on anyone else.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it on people.
Well, we're now because we're going to put it on the institutions that we're a part of now. So we've been a part of the chamber. Yeah. We've been a part of Raytown Main Street. We didn't affect any of that change. So you can't put it on anybody.
Now we are.
Okay, so let's either drive towards it, and if like.
But yeah, well, I mean, like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I have no specific visions with billboards, but like, you can bet at least once a day I think about how can I improve Raytown, and I'm building a business in Raytown to do that.
All right, this is super topical because I know it's on Sports Talk Radio. This apparently now, and this is just a giant game of poker, but there are reports that it's very realistic that the Chiefs and the Royals leave Jackson County altogether.
What?
Yeah. So it's like the Jackson County thing is Jackson County needs money, and Jackson County has pissed everybody off with these fucking real estate readjustments and reassessments that nobody's going to vote for more money for this county of Jackson County.
Yeah.
And it's like impossible for the stadium to be built downtown without some kind of tax, something from Jackson County, according to the Royals. So, like, unless there's some kind of, it just seems like the gap is too far of what the public can realistically give or get past and what the Royals are demanding in order to stay in Jackson County. And I don't know if that is also affecting the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been very mum and hush-hush about it. But there's now reports coming out, and it's like, sports talk radio people is what the early days are. But, like, it's not the only one I've seen. So I just, that would be disastrous, I think, for Raytown.
Yeah.
It's like if you made a SWOT analysis of Raytown, that has been an opportunity
That's just
and
been
or a
left on the
strength
table.
since
It's been
the
left on the
70s.
table. It's now cold, and it's got mildew on it.
Right. But wouldn't you say like it
would be.
makes us like it takes some wins out of our sails about being here?
Yeah, for sure. There's two thoughts on that. One, the day that the Chiefs play in a new hypothetical stadium, 10 years away minimum from now.
True.
So, like, knowing that Raytown has to take full responsibility if when they move, it becomes a negative effect. Because you got 10 years to create some type of airbag and off-ramp onto a better trajectory.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be...
Trail Town. Got to go Trail Town. That's it. It's the pivot, which is what we should be doing anyways. But
yeah.
Anyways, that's a lot of downtown Raytown talk. Where are we at time-wise? We've been talking a while. All right, I had one last thing I wanted to discuss. The meritocracy trap. I was just listening to a podcast where they had the author of the book, The Meritocracy Trap, on. And I've heard this shit. I have been fond of saying meritocracies aren't real for some number of time. Largely covered by my own personal perspective and thinking that I am too talented to be where I am if meritocracy was real. It's probably where that original thought came
I'll poke
from.
some holes in that.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So, but the long and the short of it is, like, I basically saying that like the average kid that goes to a public school, whether it's a poor school right now, gets like 8,000 to 10,000 put back in per kid every year. Then if you go to a rich school, it's like 12,000 to 14,000. So like the difference between Kansas City, Missouri versus Shawnee Mission East on average may only be $4,000 or $5,000 of resources per kid a year. Mm-hmm. But for a private school, it's like $75,000 per kid. So you just look at that math, and it's obvious that if you pour 10x resources on something, that you're going to get 10x results. So therefore, you could have someone who's just meritocratically smart and capable that lives in a place that gives them less opportunities than somewhere else. So this whole concept that if the cream always rises is a problem. It's a little bit of a myth. But the other thing that I think is more interesting was basically this trap of meritocracy has put us all into wanting to achieve more. That 100 years ago, the 100 richest people in the world, none of them had jobs. And actually, this is interesting. If you watch The Gilded Age on HBO, there's like a weird thing where like you can't get a job. It's embarrassing to the family if you have a job. The worst thing you can do is work. That the richest people in the world did not work. They had so much money, the goal was to not work, and then they just made their wealth everywhere else. Now the richest people in the world are working on average like 60 to 80 hours a week. So like, this is the meritocracy trap. Sure, if you work 68 hours a week and you're a genius and you're smart, you could be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or the person around the block who you aspire to the most. But their quality of life is worse than the person 100 years before them who held that same title. And it is arguably worse now than the person that makes an nth of what they do. And it's basically just this trap of meritocracy that if you achieve, you get great riches. And it's saying that at the top, all these people who have achieved have had massive trade-offs and not gotten great riches. Yeah. I just found it fascinating, like, because if you think about it, like, yeah.
I think that's more of... So
If I gave you $1 billion, what right now do you think that you would do? Like, all right, I'm from a meta 30,000 foot view. All right, I'm going to spend more time with my family. I'm going to alleviate the pain and suffering of people around me. My pain and suffering will be alleviated, and then I'll see maybe what good I can do in the world. He's suggesting that based on our society, whatever, you ran somebody through that algorithm of $1 billion, they're going to find a way to be just as busy. And I could see myself doing it. Like, if you ever live in that world of, like, I win the lottery, and all of a sudden now I'm busier than I was before I won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, so I get caught in this place, like this paradox of wanting to rest and enjoy, like, the moment and beautiful life that I have. Like, whether it's when I'm super rich and have plenty of things to enjoy, or now when I can, like, just enjoy my beautiful girlfriend and a warm home and, you know, decently tasty food. I get caught between, like, desiring that and also desiring to, like, want to fix and improve my surroundings and my community. Mm-hmm. And, like, because that will never be done. And the other one, I get, like, that, like, when we were talking about rest, I think that's my issue, is when I'm resting, there's a part of my head that's also thinking about the things that need to be improved. And it's difficult. I'm maybe trying to talk for these people, because it's not like doing those things drains you. To me, it's the equivalent of resting. It's just on the other end of the spectrum. But it's like this I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole now. I think our issue is we're looking at the wrong people. Those people that work 60 to 100 hours a week and we're super rich, they exist at the same time that those 100 people. But the people at the bottom, we're just staring at those 100 people. Now, maybe it is the meritocracy trap or the culture, but we're just looking at different people. There's hundreds of thousands of people who have made enough wealth to, you know, cushion themselves from some of the hardships of reality and are doing what we want. But for some reason, the highlight is on these fuckers.
100%. I think that's definitely, like, we can all see them now. We didn't used to be able to have access to them. I can see Elon Musk because I have Instagram, so I can see what his world looks like.
Like the cream of the crop that we're discussing.
Dan Bilzerian. Like, there was no Dan Bilzerian 100 years ago.
They're not filming themselves.
Yeah.
They're spending time with their family.
Well, and I don't, I'm probably definitely too green on this and not well nuanced in it, but he basically was saying that it is better largely to be, there's a lot to this, like if you're really poor and really have a disadvantage and you're super special, then you pretty much make it, because having that differentiator of coming from something lower is so differentiating that you generally get the opportunity.
LeBron James might be LeBron James no matter who the fuck his parents were.
Or if you're the top level, you might be so incredible that you can speak 9 different languages because of all the privilege you were given, that it makes you such a differentiation. And the difference is it comes for the people that, like, you know, went to a public school but aren't, you know, that are like in the middle. That's like who's getting crushed a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I think has parallels in our economy and shit like that.
Yeah, totally.
But one of the things he was saying was like, it's like it's almost worse for people who are closer to the bigger piles of money to want more and to feel the need to constantly go and get more, and like, when is enough, right? Because that's like that it's harder for them to do it than it is for people who are so farther away. So it's almost better to be under a threshold of poor to where you have no proximity to the people that are that rich. Like, they almost have a higher level of, and then not almost, like, there's statistics and shit that he's writing about that back this up. But basically, to be poor and under a certain threshold is better, and or over a threshold is better. To be in the middle is actually where it fucking blows, because you're just hyper aware of what you don't have.
Yeah. That's a good. Yeah, I mean, Caroline and I talk about this. Like, I never really want to move back to Johnson County because, like, I don't necessarily enjoy all the people I walk around with because of the disassociation their money gives them.
Yeah.
But like, I also don't want to.
Wouldn't you like that disassociation again a little bit though? Like, don't you wish you could disassociate more than from? You don't miss it?
I think about this a lot.
Okay.
Especially like living in a place where, like, I don't know.
I think about it a lot because I definitely have friends who can't choose to disassociate, because if they did, they'd be homeless. And then I have friends who only get to choose to disassociate because of it, you know, largely where they come from. And it seems like a distinct privilege. Like having the ability to not, and maybe we're talking about different terms, disassociate. I don't know if I'm bastardized.
Just like being able to not live in the real world. Like
Exactly.
you can complain about your Starbucks coffee because you have the time and energy to
There's no question
complain about your
that
Starbucks
when
coffee.
I'm struggling to pay my mortgage or fucking like be a healthy person mentally or emotionally, that the banality of your complaint is going to, like, the more stupid it is, the more likely it is to turn me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's I think that's pretty that's a pretty universal.
And there's a lot of that in Johnson County, and I can't like walk around the grocery store and pretend like I want to connect with all these people around me.
See, I think that the hope for humanity is for everyone to be able to walk around in Johnson County and pretend like shit that doesn't matter matters.
Well,
You know what I mean?
No, it's just get.
That would be a great reality. If everyone had enough insulation around their fucking basic needs that they could pretend like, you know, someone being a bitch at Thanksgiving is like a big problem. You know what I mean?
I don't know. You sound kind of like Tim Dillon. It's funny. I'll get like real hippie here. Like I think I'd way more be like you have to struggle, otherwise you struggle about bullshit. Like I don't know. Solving the problem of the Starbucks coffee is completely dissatisfying, but solving the problem of your mortgage payment is might as well be heroin.
Right.
You know?
That's true.
So it's like just real problems that, like, if you don't solve them, you don't die. Yeah, whatever. But that isn't Starbucks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a happy medium in there.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, we've talked a lot. We have to go open a store. That's a reality. So we're going to go do that. Come check us out. Gnarly Hustle, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 7. I got that right?
Yeah.
All right. Come check us out. See you later.
Peace.
Picture.